If God created the world and everything in it, then who created God? Now, Sophia, who is the wisdom of afterthought and who constitutes an eternal realm, conceived of a thought for herself, with the conception of the invisible spirit and foreknowledge. She wanted to bring forth something like herself, without the consent of the spirit who had not given approval, without her partner, and without his consideration. The male did not give approval, she did not find her partner, and she considered this without the spirit's consent and without the knowledge of her partner. Nonetheless, she gave birth, and because of the invincible power within her, her thought was not an idle thought. Something came out of her that was imperfect and indifferent in appearance from her, for she had produced it without her partner. It did not resemble its mother, and was misshapen. When Sophia saw what her desire had produced, it changed into the figure of a snake with the face of a lion. Its eyes were like flashing bolts of lightning. She cast it away from her, outside that realm, so that none of the immortals would see it. She had produced it ignorantly. She surrounded it with a bright cloud and put a throne in the middle of the cloud so that no one would see it except the Holy Spirit, who is called the Mother of the Living. She named her offspring Yaldabaoth. There's a decent number of people who like what I say. There's many who find my opinions similar to theirs. We have the same complaints and gripes about junk people we're surrounded by, who we work with and interact with, who we're forced to drive along with on these shitty roads that lead us from home to work, to some store, to daycare, to some other place, and then back home again. We agree that something is inherently disgusting about what we are as humankind, and that our dissatisfaction with each other is reflected in the ongoing cultural and political wars everyone seems to be a part of. But I feel like my opinions can only reach so far before people forget what the abandoned sons of Adam are about, and my voice is simply taken as some kind of political analysis. So maybe it would be smart for me to go back a few steps and return this little project back into what it is, which is the ambassador of our highest Father, the All, and most importantly, the nemesis of Yaldabaoth. You guys hear me talk about Yaldabaoth all the time, but it seems like regardless of how many times I bring him up, he's simply comprehended as some sort of spooky ghost demon, or a figurative entity which represents things we don't like. It's almost like my ramblings of him are more like a side quest or irrelevant issue that, at best, comes second to political conquest. It's like, yeah, Ryu of ASA, this Yaldabaoth guy sounds pretty fucked up, but did you see what the Twitter said about white people? And how bad they are? What about the Mexicans crossing the border because Joe Biden? Correct me if I'm wrong, but did I ever hint that some Mexicans kicking dirt the wrong way and tweets about white people being cringe should be the focus of concerns? I don't give a fuck if 800 million Mexicans come squirming into the US, or if every last member of the Pell tribe gets their feelings hurt on Twitter. I don't care if Xi Jinping and his sweatshop cult sell over here to America and make me wear little shoes, or if Benjamin Netanyahu and his little shekel squad come looking for pennies up my asshole. I'm well aware of the circus act that's going on around us. And the reason I never give a solution as to what to do is because these issues are all material embodiments of the source of wickedness and retardation of that name I yell over and over again, Yaldi fucking Yaldabaoth. And I take full responsibility if you've sat here and listened to me time and time again crying about him, because maybe I should have done a better job at explaining who he is. Because of the reality of the authorities, inspired by the spirit of the Father of Truth, the great messenger, referring to the authorities of the darkness, told us that our contest is not against flesh and blood, rather the authorities of the universe and the spirits of wickedness. I have sent you this because you inquire about the reality of the authorities. Their chief is blind. Because of his power and his ignorance and his arrogance, he said with his power, "I am God. There is no other but me." When he said this, he sinned against the all. This speech rose up to incorruptibility. Then there was a voice that came forth from incorruptibility saying, "You are wrong, Samael." That is, God of the blind. Samael, Saklas, Yaldabaoth, the Chief Archon, the Demiurge, Yahweh, Jehovah, the Creator God, or simply God, the one who created this world and the realm it exists in, and created humanity through the efforts of the Adam and Eve model when they said, "Come, let us create a human that will be soil from the earth, and let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon earth." You see, we were created in the likeness of this Archon God and his little friends, who see themselves as the highest of all, regardless of being the lowly celestial entities who we have the misfortune of being beneath and under control of. He said it himself, that we were created in his likeness. But if you're paying attention, this Creator God is not the God who sent Jesus to us. The one who created us is blind, Samael, and he is a fool, Saklas. And what his misguided mother, who accidentally gave birth to him and even tried to abort him, Sophia, named him Yaldabaoth. He is responsible for our creation. He is responsible for the material world. He is responsible for nature. And yes, that includes human nature. And the mess we find ourselves in and have been mingling in for the last few thousand years, which has only led to the snowballing filth of degenerative modernity, is the result of us being raised within the stench of this rotten failure of a god. Whenever we feel an urge to do something that feels pleasant, it's the nature of Yaldabaoth. Whenever we want to pick up overprocessed grinded cows, filled with injected hormones cooked into little circles, shove it in our mouths to eat, and then shit it out, it's because Yaldabaoth. Whenever some shitty car dealership offers you a metal coffin and you think you need it because you want to make it appear that you have an abundance of fake Hebrew fiats, which represents some state of power, financial discipline, it's because Yaldabaoth. When you feel like judging your neighbor by magnifying their errors, all in an attempt to hide your own hideous self, that's Yaldabaoth. Whenever we do something foul to another human being, it's because Yaldabaoth. When someone decides to get some underage slut wasted on Fireball and rapes the shit out of her, that's Yaldabaoth. Whenever Kalergi youths and darkies drive around shooting up houses with pistols and robbing liquor stores because the clout, that's Yaldabaoth. When property moguls collaborate with the government to destroy buildings filled with thousands of people and blame it on Muslims, that's Yaldabaoth. When hordes of brainwashed cogs go out into the streets and burn down their cities in a fit of rage, influenced by foreign hyena media, and local residents are maimed and slaughtered as a result, that's because of our nature. given by Yaldabaoth. And yes, even when you poor innocent whites who believe that a race war and national empowerment will cure your civilization of the ills of modernity, you too are inflicted by an inner nature given to you at the beginning of time, which is Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is the first ruler who took great power from his mother. Then he left her and moved away from the place where he was born. He took control and created for himself other realms with luminous fire, which still exist. He mated with the mindlessness in him and produced authorities for himself. The name of the first is Athoth, whom generations call the Reaper. The second is Harmas, who is the Jealous Eye. The third is Kalila Ombri. The fourth is Yabel. The fifth is Adonaios, who is called Sabaoth. The sixth is Cain, whom generations of the people called the Sun. The seventh is Abel. The eighth is Abrasine. The ninth is Yobel. The 10th is Armorpeel. The 11th is Melchior Adonine. The 12th is Belius, who is over the depth of the underworld. Yaldabaoth stationed 7 kings, one for each sphere of heaven, to reign over the 7 heavens, and 5 to reign over the depth of the abyss. He shared his fire with them, but he did not give away any of the power of the light that he had taken from his mother, for he is ignorant. When the light mixed with darkness, it made the darkness shine. When the darkness mixed with light, it dimmed the light and became neither light nor darkness, but rather gloom. This gloomy ruler has 3 names. The first name is Yaldabaoth, the second is Saklath, the third is Samael. He is wicked in his mindlessness that is in him. He said, I am God, and there is no other God but me. The rulers created 7 powers for themselves, and the powers created 6 angels apiece, until there were 365 angels. These are the names and the corresponding appearances. The first is Athoth, and has the face of a sheep. The second is Elias, and has the face of a donkey. The third is the Astaphaeos, and has the face of a hyena. The fourth is Yao, and has the face of a snake with 7 heads. The fifth is Sabaoth, and has the face of a snake. The sixth is Adonine, and has the face of an ape. The seventh is Sabateos, and has the face of a flaming fire. This is the sevenfold nature of the wheat. Now, just because I say Yaldabaoth is the reason for the vileness committed by us, doesn't mean you have no responsibility in the degradation of humanity. Once you can comprehend his influence, which is our nature, you are now responsible to fight against it. If you can identify awful behaviors and know how it has come to be, then you now have the duty to not only cease your behavior, but to fight against he who would cast it into the actions of man. To learn who Yaldabaoth is to know secret knowledge. And secret knowledge is only for those deemed responsible enough to use it appropriately, and to understand how crucial it is to ensure you protect yourself from being put back into the spellwork of the enemy nature. This is the reason Christ was manifest into our world, so that we can follow in his teachings, and it's why the Nag Hammadi scriptures were revealed to us specifically in this age. After an assumed 2,000 years, the paradigm has reached the peak of revolution, and a new world under the control of the Chief Archon has risen once again, and will be in its most transparent form. But, as in the case of every new civilization, there will always be a small remnant who survive the ages through the utilization of occult tactics, taking along with them the knowledge of the ancients and the truth of our existence. Whether you fight this revolution out in the streets, blasting away your opponents with your little guns, or sitting on your ass posting memes all day, or joining activist groups, or attempting to recreate a dead society on the foul soil of the modern world, it's most important to know that nothing you do can dismantle the architecture of the Demiurge and its constant evolution of coming and becoming. I might encourage you to fight back how you will, and even step in here or there for the sake of my own amusement. Regardless, you are fucked, whether you win or not. But here at ASA, our door is always open for those who want to know. We won't win the terrestrial war, because we don't control it. However, Yaldabaoth is a big, fat, mongrel homo raised by a single mom who is jealous that he's not even a real god. Once we leave our flesh cages and pass through his shit-tier heaven realm, he's gonna have quite a hissy fit that he's been figured out and challenged outside of the material realm he relies on for our obedience and ignorance. When I finally get to meet this sorry piece of shit, I'm gonna pin him down and stick my foreskin in his nose hole, then rejoice in the name of Jesus Christ that I am truly saved, before taking my aura back to the aeons in which my light came from. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.